I'm living through the love winds. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Reconnect with Your Teenager podcast with yours truly, Emma G. Now, if you are new to this platform, hello, welcome. I'm so glad you found us. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a space where we are going deep. We are diving into some really interesting conversations, and by we, I mean me and you, with some experts, coaches, mentors, facilitators, counselors, therapists from all over the world about the magic of youth and how we can enable them and empower them to be better, stronger, and more resilient. Who am I? My name is Emma G, and I am a singer, songwriter, musician, youth empowerment coach, and speaker, using music as a tool to help empower and encourage and inspire young people to step into their authentic voices and become their biggest, baddest, dopest selves. It is not the most conventional approach to youth empowerment work or youth work in general, so I decided to reach out to a whole host of other unconventional coaches and mentors, and today I am so pleased to be joined by all the way from another state, because I'm here in Maryland. I don't even know where you are, but Theresa Puckett, how are you?
I am doing great. You know what? Sometimes I don't know where I am. I'm in the process of moving, so it's perfect.
Okay. Where are you? So where are you based? Where are you moving to?
Where I'm based right now, and in this moment, is Pennsylvania, in northeastern Pennsylvania, a little ways from Philly, and we are in the process of moving up to Maine.
Oh, okay. I love both of those places. My mother is originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, and I saw my first ever moose in Maine. So there we go.
It's a good place to see them, right? Your first ever. You've seen more than one moose, Emma?
No. That's a good point. I've only seen. They're big. I don't want to see another one. They're huge. Very intimidating.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Well, that's super exciting. So let's dive right in. And you have been in like the coaching and mentoring space for a minute. You have done a whole bunch of work previously with a business that you ran called relationalparents.org. And you've kind of been in an adjustment period as of late. So I'd love to sort of dive right in and learn more about like who is Theresa Puckett as she transitions from Pennsylvania to Maine. What's going on? Tell me about what you do.
Wow. So I am transitioning from that relational parents, really working with parents and specifically parents to teenagers. And the reason why I'm transitioning out is because people would come to me and they would want to fix their kids. And that just, I kept hitting my head against that same wall, and there were precious few people who were coming to me who were open to just reimagining themselves and opening up in a new way to their kids. So I stepped back from that, and I'm facilitating people who want to get in better touch with their own flow, with their own energy. Sometimes it's because of a toughness in a relationship with a kid or with someone else. I guess, to be honest, it's still a lot of times is the toughness with a teenager, because that, I think, is the toughest period. I'm so gratified that you focus in on the teens, because that's the toughest age to parent.
Yeah. I thank you first and foremost. I mean, it is quote unquote the toughest time of anybody's lives, let alone of somebody wanting to parent a teenager. I do not envy any parents out there raising Generation Z currently, but I'm curious because I think one of the things that makes you unique and powerful in your work is you've not only parented yourself, you've not only been through the ringer when it comes to noticing and encouraging parents to step outside of that tough love mindset. But also now you're doing a lot of work alongside teenagers. So even in your 30 years of age,
No, you know, put it out there. I'm 53. It's all good.
Okay, go ahead now. So, even in your 53 years of age, you're still willing to put in the work to learn more about the demographic that you're serving. And I think that's so key to parenting, to education, and to therapy or coaching, to really step into the shoes of those that you're working with. Can you tell me more about like how that journey has been for you, or how that process has been for you?
Just this most recent, the one that we were talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. So, okay. So I'll give the watchers, the listeners, a little bit of the background that I gave you.
Please.
For the last 10 months, I have been working as a waitress or a server at a nationally known restaurant, wonderful restaurant. And most of the people I've been working with and serving alongside have been teenagers and young 20s, which I think, we can kind of, include them in the pot too, right? The older adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really been wonderful to, I in general, I am open. I like to hear other points of view and things. And I can't help taking in the points of view, but it's been illuminating watching and seeing the different, just all the different individuals. Not everybody has the same anything, just like any other age, right?
Yeah.
We are all different. But I will say that I've noticed sadly, some patterns. I think they're many thousands of years old. The trauma that our parents are raised with, they embody, and then they raise us with it, and then we raise our children with it. And can I tell you a story? It actually happened.
Of course.
Just the other night at this restaurant, and there was a little boy, very little, maybe 5. And he was crying because he couldn't get to his mom because he was in a booth and she was across from him. There was something. He was in need of her loving attention, and he was crying. And one of my coworkers, I felt the child's pain. I just said, "Oh, that poor little boy," and she just said, "What? You feel sorry for him? Oh my gosh! Like if I ever made noise like that, my parents would have ripped me by my hair and dragged me out. I hate kids."
Oh.
And I just like, she's a teen or a young 20, and that's okay. Like but just like the trauma goes on. And I just think if we as the parents can open to something else besides the trauma that we were raised with, if we can parent ourselves and soften that, we'll be able to reconnect so much more with our kids.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think one of the things that that most makes me take pause as you're telling we were talking before we went live, and as you're telling me about that story in particular, is I think a lot of educators, I've been in the education field for, going on 18 years now. Yeah, I know, right? I started when I was 2. No, but one of the things that one of the key principles, because I obtained my qualifications in New Zealand, where we really honor our Indigenous practices, Te Reo Māori and Tikanga Māori, and one of the things that is integral to kaupapa Māori is making sure that we as educators, as parents, as leaders, as mentors, as coaches, whatever, understand and value the importance of learning as much as giving. And really absorbing information from our clients, from our students, as well as feeding into the next generation or feeding into our people. And one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that you are also really big on really taking on the energy of those you're working with and learning from them as you're coaching them through, through whatever they're going through. And which is interesting because, when we talked last year before going on this podcast, you'd mentioned that you do a whole bunch of like movement stuff, body-based transformational tools, and human design. Yeah. The concept of human design is, obviously movement is important, transformational tools, I want to get into that, but human design, this is a buzzword I've been hearing for years. Tell me what that is and how that plays into the work you're doing with teenagers. Tell me everything.
Okay. So, well, human design, it's almost like tell me about the body, right? Like the body, like, well, what? Your fingers or toes, your heart, your skeleton. There's layers upon layers of it. But like the 60-second, the thumbnail is that human design is like a synthesis of 5 or 6 Qing from China, the chakras, the tree of life, astrology, so many different things. But basically with your birth information, your date, your time, your place, you can go to any one of dozens of sites now and put it in and get your chart, your human design chart. It's like your energetic anatomy. But the most important thing is your energy type. And so there's only 4. So your energy type has a certain aura. So for example, 7 out of 10 people, and I'm one of them, is a generator. And so generators are not here to initiate things. They're here to respond to things, to be in response. Things come to generators that are supposed to come. So life brings generators the things that they need to respond to. So a lot has to do with your energy type and the aura that goes along with your energy type. So someone, for example, who is a projector, and that's like 20%, just under 20% of the population, it might be a projector. You can feel their energy. They might be very triggering, and they're not supposed to do anything until they're invited, because if you're invited as a projector, you have this ability to go deep and be very insightful and then pull out, and you give what exactly is needed. But so that's not me. The aura for a generator is more open and enveloping and bringing to it what it needs. But most of us are trained to be manifestors. You can do anything you put your mind to, any single thing. So it's kind of like, and I love human design, and I'm not certified or anything. I've done a lot of deep work, but there's so much that's powerful from just the basics. You don't have to go insanely deep.
So we have, you said you've got generators, we have manifestors, we have, what was the third one? Projectors. And what was the fourth one?
The fourth one is only 1% of the population, give or take.
Okay.
And it's called reflectors. And those are the ones that are here to just show us how we are. They just kind of mirror what's going on back to us. Like, is this good? This is what's happening. Is this good? Maybe this is great. Reflectors are really important, but we don't need too many of them.
Of course, that can be confrontational was what I was trying to say.
Exactly.
Confronting, yeah. So interesting. How did you get involved with working in this field? And how does movement and transformational, what are the transformational tools that you use? How does all of this play into the work you're doing with parents and with teenagers and with the teenagers you're working with? And I'm fascinated because the school of life is real, but there's so much that we, I think, tend to sort of take for granted when it comes to how we're relating to one another. But you seem to be really going for the jugular every single time.
I don't know if that's good or bad, Emma.
Listen, I'm here for it.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Great. So, I mean, so movement for me, you hear embodiment all the time,
Of
right?
course.
Embodiment this, embodiment that. Um, we are conditioned by society, the time that we live in, to be in our head,
Mm-hmm.
to just be in our head and learn and do and make the decisions and plan everything all out. And when we do that, when we try to plan it all out, like, I mean, nothing can get planned. Like, what was that that movie where it was like you can have the best plan in the world, but like 5 seconds into the game, like the plan changes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the ability to not have to be in your head, you know, human design is all energetic, but
Of
people
course.
can kind of study the hell out of it and get
Right.
in their heads about it. So for me, what is so helpful is I love I love yin yoga, I love qigong. Um, so adding the qigong movements to, okay, well, so you are a projector, so let's practice. What is your aura like? You know, kind of doing it and feeling it and getting into your body about it instead of getting into your head and did I do this right? And does this make sense with my human design? Like, no, let's
Mm-hmm.
feel it. Let's really get out of our heads and just be in our bodies. And that used to, when people would say that to me 5 years ago, Emma, I would be like, what are you talking about? I would like
Mm.
want to punch them because I was so in my head. And so it's been a process for me after decades and decades. So it's, I mean, it's easier. I can understand people being all in their heads.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're trained for.
Yeah, I've been noticing, and I don't know if this is just my algorithm working against me or for me, I'm not sure, but I've noticed a lot of people in my environment talking a lot about, honoring our mindset, our heart set, and our soul set. So what I'm hearing from you is that we've got like that cognitive understanding, that emotional understanding, and then that spiritual understanding. How does one balance those energies, especially when it comes to being a teenager and or when it comes to, working with our teenagers?
Yeah. I mean, as far as being a teenager, I think there's so much physically with the, there's so much brain-based and hormone and things going on, especially the different stages of teenager. It's not like it's all
Mm-hmm.
the same. Um, I think it's way beyond my capacity to say like, how can you balance all of it being a teenager other than having some mentors, adults, other people who are just willing to listen to you
Mm.
and willing to really be there for you. I think
Yeah.
that's the best way. Having places to go, whether it's your older brother, whether it's somebody that you work with, whether it's your mom, a counselor, a teacher, friends, but people
Mm.
who will listen and not try to advise you to death.
Yeah, yeah. Being heard is such a pivotal, no matter how old you are, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So let's take a step back.
Yeah.
You're a teenager. I'm a teenager, and I'm coming to you and saying, Miss Puckett, I need help. I've just been through, 3 years of online schooling, and my boyfriend dumped me, and if my parents are getting divorced. What are some like really key things that you can sort of encourage a young person to do when it comes to maybe not balancing the mental, emotional, and spiritual, but allowing
Mhm.
themselves the space and permission to trust themselves, let alone trust somebody else?
Yeah, amen. Amen. Trusting yourself is so huge. So I would I've already listened, right? And you've told me all this. And then I would start asking questions like, well, so Emma, what do you really like to spend time doing? And it might be, if it's walking in nature or taking photographs or reading or whatever it is that you really like doing. I would start to get a sense for, what is your energy like? What are the things you like to do? What do you think you're good at?
Yeah.
And starting to explore ways that you can spend a little bit more time doing those things so that you can enjoy yourself more, build the trust factor with yourself. Like, yeah, that is a great picture I took. Or, wow, I found that mushroom that nobody else could find in the woods when I was foraging, or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I love that. That reminds me of like one of my favorite pieces of advice. When you're feeling in a crappy mode, or even just like being an adult, being an adult, and especially in DC where I live, can be stressful. And
Yeah.
one of the key components that I was reminded of recently was remembering that thing that you used to love doing as a child and doing more of that.
Yeah.
Doing more of that. For me, that's obviously songwriting and singing and being goofy. I'm not going to lie, but
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
but but so but I think a lot of people when they really stop to recognize, well, my inner child does this or wants this, there's a lot of judgment that often comes about as a result of that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, thankfully anime is trending these days, but there's a lot of things that one of my girlfriends, she likes to every now and then have a stuffed toy tea party, which, she's 30 something years old, and people are like, that's a bit odd, but I think that's important for us to do. So how do we free ourselves from that internal judgment, let alone the external judgment that a lot of us face?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, that question, like, what did you used to really like to do as a child and do more of it? That works really well for lots of people. There are some people that won't even work for because they might have been they might have been cut off from that so early that they can't remember,
Oh, wow. Okay.
you know. And so then that's okay. And that's okay because they were cut off by a well-meaning parent who was trying to help them be what they needed to be to survive. So
Right.
so it's okay, but so getting yourself into as relaxed a space as you can, however that's good for you, in a bath with a candle, with some essential oils, whatever, and then really sort of floating away and like, what would just feel so much fun to do? And having some inspiration, like you even said, your girlfriend who has a tea party with stuffed animals. That is inspiring. That is cool. That is offbeat. Not that I would do the same thing, but it inspires me to be as offbeat as I freaking want.
Yeah.
So I think just like softening into more and more permission,
Mm.
just a little more permission. Spend time with somebody who's going to give you a little more permission than you can give yourself right now, or than the last person that you talked to that you felt like, oh, you felt
Yes,
beaten down by.
I've definitely cut those people out of my life. I'm not going to lie.
Good
I
for
live by,
you.
I live by the ethos. If it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no. So
I'm sorry, say again.
if it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no. Is one of
Good.
my key philosophies in life, with people and things. So okay, I love those words of wisdom. If I can be so bold, I would like to now step into how does that manifest, and I'm using that word kind of ironically, I realize, but how does that transfer for maybe your male clients, let alone your female clients? Because I feel like women are raised to be more feeling than a lot of our men are, and which, has a whole host of other issues, unfortunately. But, when it comes to young men feeling overwhelmed or stressed or triggered or unable to express themselves or just move through their emotions, how does that, how does feeding their inner child, or how does that look? How does that even come to be healthily? And especially considering how many judgments and how much pressure there is on our young men to show up a certain type of way.
Yeah. So I think that what I have observed, I don't have the experience of being a man, but obviously we know that the trends that you said, that you just mentioned, are true. We see them all the time. And I think when I'm talking to young men, and the young men that are a bit more in touch with themselves, I have found they have somehow found environments, whether they are nature, whether they are, in some cases, parents that are more open, but they have found ways to be in environments that are not the constrictive, you have to be buttoned up, pull up your tie, like, what are you doing crying? And that's where, you may not be able to be in those environments all the time, but if you are and you can grow while you're there, then when you're not there, you can kind of put up a little bit of a shield. And always striving to spend more time cultivating more relationships that allow you to be in that space where you are more of yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up, that shield, because I think, especially, over the last 18 years that I've been working with young people, I feel as if there has been more and more of a trend towards faking it, towards putting on a mask, and I don't know if that's to do with social media or to do with, trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever. But that shield can be so damaging for a young person's confidence and self-worth, let alone their ability to navigate trauma or adversity. So do you have any tips on how to kind of allow yourself the opportunity to take off the mask when it is safe to do so?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as not yes or no, but there may be maybe layers, right? Sort of like protective layers. And when all the layers are up, maybe like that's full on mask and like I'm totally protected.
Yeah.
And it can be damaging to be in that protection all the time, but when you need to be, then you need to be. But if you can think about removing layers, or maybe not taking the whole thing off, but it's more of a porous kind of a mask. Like, let me just try this out. I wonder what would happen if I said this kind of thing to mom. I wonder, what if I share this with my father or this with my friend? And, that's a little bit more fluid. It might be a little bit easier to think about it like that than I'm just going to take it all off and it's all me no matter what. And it's just, if it works for you, that's phenomenal. But for many people, that's just not realistic for a number of reasons.
Yeah, no, I love that. As soon as you said layers, all I could think of was we're all ogres like Shrek. Okay. Are you familiar with that? Okay, that makes sense. But no, but I think that's a really great point, is that allowing ourselves levels of vulnerability, as long as we stay centered and able to recognize who we are underneath those layers, right? And I think you're completely right that a lot of that is to do with letting ourselves feel joy and feel that peace and be in our comfortable places and fill our own hearts and things. That's awesome. I love all of that. With regards to your work specifically, so especially as you're moving from PA to Maine, if people are wanting to reach out to you to work with you, what does that look like? Do you do in person? Are you more virtual?
Right, absolutely. So there's a couple of ways right now to work with me. It's mostly virtual.
Okay.
So what I found is even in the, because of the pandemic, even if I live local to somebody, it's just so much easier to jump on
Mm,
Zoom and nobody has to get in their car or whatever. So virtual has opened up the world,
quite literally.
and it kind of leveled the playing field, other than
Yeah.
time zones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my website right now is my link tree. So there's literally buttons there's a Facebook group that a friend and I started just this month that is the easiest way. It's free. He channels. So, in terms of facilitating, because I'm all about facilitating points of view, I'm facilitating him being able to share this channeling, which I know we haven't even, it's apart from what we talked about. And it's for anyone.
Hmm.
Teenagers are in there, 60 somethings, whatever. It's for anyone. Also, I do one-off human design, which
Hmm.
I'm sort of expanding into like a human design like experience. So it's not just you talk to me for 50 minutes and that's it. So you have a
Right.
little bit on the front end and the back end. And then I do more elongated one-on-one work where it's really about facilitating and holding you and moving with you. And we bring human design in just to really to soften anything that needs to be softened so that you have more internal capacity, more internal space to receive the things that are in your world, as opposed to, oh, I can't do that. I can't, this one, that one.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I love that. And I think that's so important, like you said, for both parents, non-parents, and teenagers alike. It's being able to be bold enough, be vulnerable enough, be strong enough to step into those soft spaces and then allow those soft spaces to receive on such a deep level. That's power 101, I think. And
It
I
really
know
is.
that. Sorry, yeah.
It's not the way we're taught that power is, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
That
see it all the time with my songwriting clients. The very first thing I tell the teenagers that I work with is that the walls in which we're working together are safe space. That's where you can just let yourself be and speak and create. And then through that safe space, they're for the first time able to like tap into parts of themselves that they didn't know existed. And I imagine it's very similar with you, learning about what the channels are, learning about whether they're a projectionist or, I think that's such powerful, beautiful work. That's beautiful. So for anybody who is wanting to reach out to you, obviously theresapuckett.com. And you are also Theresa Puckett on Facebook
I
as well as on
am.
Instagram.
Yes,
On
Teresa.Puckett on Instagram.
Yeah, you're all about that gram life. Okay. I don't know. When I first moved to DC and everyone's like, "What's your Instagram?" I'm like, "Really? Okay."
I
Didn't
just find
realize it
that,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The thing for me, I need to get a little bit more on and better on Instagram. But to me, Instagram right now is the thing that transcends the generational barriers. There's
yeah,
teenagers on there, and as well as everyone,
yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to Facebook,
Absolutely.
not so much.
A little funny, Daddy. I feel you. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Theresa. I honor you. I honor your work. I'm very excited and grateful for your, for just how you're helping people step into their power. I think that's really beautiful. With your specific approach, it's not the typical. I think that when we think of youth work, to think about the heart set, mindset, and soul set. It's just fantastic. So thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody, of course, for tuning in and watching today's episode. Thank you to the iRanch Network for helping facilitate and put this entire show together. And of course, thank you to my Patreon community over Emma G Nation, who are all making this thing possible, because without you guys, I wouldn't be here. So until next time, friends, be kind, be safe, spread love like it's going out of fashion. And remember, TheresaPuckett.com. See you guys later.
Thank you so much, Emma.
I'm breaking in my headspace, I'm trying to get my feelings straight. I love with all my mistakes, I turn one into one, so hard to stay sober. I'm damaged and I'm love stoned, so hard to remain in control. Rewriting what I thought I know, and I'm drinking it in, but the lesson ain't over. And I can almost pinpoint where we went wrong. I'm not about the sad songs, the foundation said I'm good to go. No matter what comes my way, I'll be smiling every step I take. I'm a legend, make no mistake, that I'm living proof that love wins. No matter what the future holds, I'm here and I'm not letting go. I'm a legend, baby, you should know that I'm living proof that love wins. Living proof that love wins. It's strange to who I used to be, but I'm not going down quietly. I know I create my destiny. When it's right as life, the evergreen knows it. I left behind the what if, I broke up with the negative. I'm flirting with abundance, and I'm drinking it in. My purpose is magic. And I can almost pinpoint where my love began. I'm so glad that I know who I am, 'cause I'm the woman, I'm not the man. Whoa. No matter what comes my way, I'll be laughing every step I take. I'm a legend, make no mistake, I'm living proof that love wins. No matter what the future holds, I'll be here and I'm not letting go. I'm a legend, baby, you should know, I'm living proof that love wins. I'm living proof that love wins. I'm living proof that love wins. I'm living proof that love wins.